know some of y'all are here this afternoon, so you're going to get some of the same story of what happened. Again, I'm not a speaker. I'm a storyteller. I don't like to stand behind a podium. I don't like to make myself feel like I'm some professor talking down to people. What I'm going to tell you is what happened, and you can make your own assumptions or make your own decisions on you know, whether what the governments tell you was the truth or whether they were hiding something. So, other than that, I'm not going to go any farther than that. But as Don said, I'm a Ranger, 2nd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, and then I was with 5th Battalion, 19th Special Forces Group. So I was in the regular Army and then National Guard. And then I was injured, had some injury in 2000, actually, and you did awesome. But I actually was commissioned in 2001. I was injured and actually medically discharged in the Army in 2003. And I did not know what was going to happen with my life. And out of the blue, these were companies like, I'm familiar with some of these names, Blackwater, Triple Canopy, Special Operations Consulting, Security Management Group, DynCorp. These companies started to come out of the woodwork, security companies. And they were looking for special operations guys that had 6 years of special ops experience, and I was very lucky to have that. And I got a call from Blackwater 30 days later after wondering what the heck I was going to do with my life and saying, hey, do you want to go to Iraq? I said, well, you know, I'm injured, my stomach injury. And I'm like, well, can you just carry a gun and shoot? I'm like, yeah, I can. Well, then you're going over. I'm like, okay, that's fine with me, let's go. And I ended up over in Iraq, and actually ended up over in Iraq with Ambassador Bremer at the tail end of his detail there, and then with the State Department as a detail leader for Ambassador Khalilzad and also doing diplomatic protection. So I have a lot of experience on the State Department side before the CIA, and then I moved over to the CIA after that. Also in between contracts with the CIA, and you know, my wife can tell you this, I didn't like to be at home. Whenever I had leave time, I would go and ride ships and protect the ships off the coast of Somalia. And I would actually train guys in South and Central America to go fight in Iraq. And I also would do protection in Qatar, and UAE. And then I would go train CIA case officers and CIA officials to go make sure they were weapons qualified to go overseas and fight too. So I wasn't home a whole bunch, and I'm not home much anymore either still. And you know, that makes for a difficult home life, but it was something that needed to be done, and there's guys like me that are still doing it. But that kind of leads up to how I got my experience, and then the next step was how I ended up in Libya. I started with the CIA as a contractor in 2005, 2006 at the tail end. I started to deploy with the Central Intelligence Agency to Afghanistan, to Iraq, multiple sites in both countries, and also to Libya. And then I also did a tour in Yemen after Benghazi. And my time in Libya at that time, it was just my rotation to go. I didn't pick there, you go where they tell you you're going to go. And I'd been in Tripoli a couple months prior, and then I was moved to Benghazi. And you know, just to draw a picture for you, Benghazi, all these other places that I worked at, you could figure that there's there's enemies. You know who Sadrs, the Mahdi militia in Iraq. You know who the Taliban are. You know that, and you do have, you know who AQI is, Al Qaeda is. You know who the bad militias are in Kabul. In Benghazi, you knew there was bad guys out there, but it's like you just really did not know the security situation. You know the security's bad. It's a third world country. There's people that want to kill you, but it just was different. And I think the differences was that we were actually kept in the dark by our own government. We weren't getting all the full intel to do our complete security there in Benghazi. Where in other countries, we would get fully debriefed or fully briefed on the security situations in a particular city that we were in. I mean, Kandahar was a perfect example. Kandahar was probably more dangerous than Benghazi was. But I knew the security situation in Kandahar because the agents that we were trying to protect or help, they would give us information. Benghazi, they wouldn't. I didn't know the full scope. That's why for all those that ask me about the weapons transfers and things in Benghazi, I could speculate, but I'm not going to, because we were actually kept in the dark, and it made a dissension within the ranks between the security guys, global response staff, and the CIA staff officers that were there. But getting up to 9/11, 2012, the day was like any other day. You're in a third world country, open sewers, you know, great, it's fantastic place to be and visit. You got cars driving on the left side of the road. I mean, it's fun. Honestly, it's fun. It's chaotic, but it's fun. You just got to deal with dysentery every once in a while. Just get your ciprofloxacin and have it in your back pocket, put it in your mouth, and be good to go. But that day was pretty normal, and there wasn't any inclination, and I was on the quick reaction force that day, myself and DB, which basically monitors the activity in the city to respond to our own guys that are doing operations throughout Benghazi that whole day. We all had a rotation. Everybody would take a turn doing it. And so we're monitoring to make sure there's no protests, make sure there's no things that can lead to a protest, like a video, making sure there's no threatening areas in town so we can let our guys know who are doing operations in town, what areas of the city to stay out of. And that day was normal. I mean, it was normal. There were still a couple firefights between the local militias, whatever they want to do, you can kill each other, that's fine. And you know, there's a couple car wrecks here, and there's bad guys, there's good guys. You know, it's just normal to us, normal third world country. And 9 o'clock, Oz goes out on the final op. Mark, Oz guys, you may have seen him on TV. He goes out on an op acting as a part of his job part of all of our jobs was to act as, like if we had to act as husbands or boyfriends for a female case officer, we would act as that. And so he was going to go out to dinner with a female case officer at 9. Tig and Ty passed away that night, were coming back at 9 o'clock, and they were going to drive by the consulate to make sure that the consulate was secure because we knew the ambassadors. And they would drive by the consulate, they radio us in, they say, hey, everything's quiet, nothing's going on at the consulate. They're 200 meters away from it. No protest. I didn't ask this, but there was no protest, there was nothing going on. I said, all clear, so we'll come back home. And of course I wanted to get back home because as soon as everybody comes in, I can go to bed that night. And they come back and it's quiet. 9:32, we get a call on the radio, all GRS report to the team room. And this is what you didn't get from lunch. I was a big goof off. If you can't tell, I would make fun of case officers constantly. I would put tape things on their desks. I would make sure, you know, and forgive me if I offend anybody, I'm a Ranger, I'm not politically correct. I don't know if you guys have all seen Tropic Thunder. Have you seen that movie? Have you seen Never Go Full Retard with Robert Downey Jr.? And so I had that picture, and whatever case officer made a mistake that day, I go and I put it on their desk. And I get trouble. So DB looks at me and he goes, what did you, and DB and I had worked for 10 years together in Iraq and Afghanistan. He'd saved my butt in Iraq twice. And he looks at me and he goes, Taronto, what'd you do now? I'm like, dude, I did not, I swear I didn't do anything. I've been sitting here with you all day. 30 seconds go by, I'm sorry, 30 more seconds go by, and now it's more of a urgent, whoever helped me out with that word last at lunch, more urgent call on the radio, we need all GRS in the team room now. And by the sound of the voice and the urgency, we knew that there was something going on. DB and I had, like I said, almost 10 years together in countries, working together. We looked at each other, and I remember I looked right at him, and the book even says this, and the book goes more detail as well. So yeah, we get to do something fun tonight. Because you know, you're on the sideline. 90% of the time, you're not doing anything. That 10% of the time, you're rocking and rolling. That's what it was. And we rushed out of the of our bunks, of our billets there, and when we get out the door, you can see the firefights. You can see the tracers. You can see you can hear the explosions. You know, AK-47s at 7.62 round. It'll bounce and it'll go up in the air. PKM rounds do the same thing. And I go up to our team and I said, "What's going on?" He said, "The consulate's under attack." And at that time, I also started to hear the State Department guys come across the radio saying, "We're taking fire." Now, the reason they had our radios, and I didn't tell you this at lunch because I didn't have enough time. A month prior, we had done a site assessment of security at their facility, and we had walked around, myself and the guys, and I looked at Scott and Dave, and I said, "Man, what do you got here?" He said, "Well, we got M4s." I said, "Well, are you going to be okay?" I go, "You got any crew-served weapons or some machine guns?" He said, "No." I said, "Do you have any other guards on the walls?" He said, "No." I said, "You know what, guys? If you guys get attacked, you're going to die." And people that read the book have heard that. And I felt bad about saying it because their eyes got huge. And I remember saying to them after that, I said, "If you guys ever need us, you call us and we'll come get you." And that's when we gave them a radio. So when we're hearing them on the radio, it wasn't just Americans that were being attacked. It wasn't a firefight. It was we had given them our word that we would get over there. And for SEALs, Rangers, and Marines, that's a pretty big deal. 5 minutes go by then, and we're all jocked up. We're ready to go. We got our vehicles. We're a very awesome team, and we're ready to head out of the gate. And I go up to our chief of base, Bob, and I said, "Hey, we're good to go." and he looks basically at me to the team leader, and he says, "You guys need to wait." Now, your first reaction is you're angry, but you also understand, me being an officer and a non-commissioned officer as well in the military, you realize, well, maybe he's trying to get support for us. Maybe he's trying to drum up a militia. Now, there was no Army, there was no U.S. presence there besides us in Benghazi, so I knew he wasn't trying to get a U.S. Army presence there. But I said, well, maybe he's trying to get the 17th February Martyrs Brigade, which we knew had Al-Qaeda ties, but they had actually been paid by the State Department to protect the consulars, and maybe he's trying to get them to come assist us. So I walk back to the vehicle, I get in the car, I look at DB, he goes, "We need to wait." And Ty gets on the radio, and he goes, "Guys, what are we doing?" I said, "Ty, we gotta wait." I said, "Rowan, Chief Base wants us to wait." Now keep in mind, during this time frame, you're still hearing the firefights, you're hearing the explosions, you're seeing the tracers, and you're getting more frantic calls on the radio from the State Department guys, Scott and Alec and Dave. And 10 minutes go by after that first, and I've got 15 minutes, and Tig was the youngest of us, he was about 38. And he gets out of the car, young Marine, he goes to Bob, he says, "We're losing initiative, we need to go now." And Bob looks right at him, and I've said this so many times, I don't know how many more times I need to say it for people to believe it. Bob looks right at him and goes, "You guys need to stand down." So that's where the stand down order came from. As you said, it happened, it came from Bob that I saw, but it also comes from our chain of command that is in the CIA. So your questions about did it come from the State Department or DOD, I don't know. All I know is it came from the CIA. So we're at 15 minutes now. Now 15 minutes in a firefight, basically you guys you're gonna die. You're losing their lives. I don't know if you guys have been in firefights before. 15 minutes is a long time. 5 minutes is a long time. Well, being the military that we are, so my camera's off, so we're gonna start dancing here. 10 minutes go by, now it's 25 minutes, and I finally get out of the vehicle because we come across the radio. Scott comes across the radio, Wickland, one of the State Department guys, he goes, "If you guys don't get here, we're gonna die." And he says it more frantic than that. I get off, and out of the car, I go up to Bob, and I just tell him, look at the team leader, I said, "Get in the effing car, we're going." And you get in, and I remember, and I said this at lunch, and still, I love saying this because it was still one of the coolest things. It was like out of a movie. Ty looks at me, and he cracks his door, because we have armored vehicles, you can't roll down the windows. And he puts his hand out the door, and he goes like this. And he looks back at me, and I go like this, and it's awesome. Because we're like, we didn't even say a word, we're going, and we're out the door. And we start rolling out the gate. And I said this about the turtle thing, and the guys at lunch heard this. We had some pet turtles that we had, and that we kept. You find things to do when you're deployed, it's just silly things. We had some desert turtles there that we collected, and we put them in a little grassy area in the middle of our courtyard, and we named them all, had little stickers with the names on them. I remember looking back at the turtles going, man, that's the last time I'm going to see, I even forget their names, I think the last time I'm going to see Jose again. But yeah, that's it. And we went out the gate. And we knew that most likely we weren't be coming back. But we ended up driving there, and we drive tactically. We don't speed down the road, we don't drive as like a bat out of, because if you do, you're signaturing yourself, and there's no other support. So if we don't get there, then there's nobody coming for it. So we get part of the way there. We link up with 17th February, which is who we were supposed to link up with. And I remember, and people have read the book, they were strewn everywhere. They weren't doing a thing. And I remember looking at DB, and I go, I can't believe we waited for these guys. What are they doing? And we got out of the vehicles, and I remember Scott coming across the radar, Alex saying, "You're lighting buildings on fire, guys. We need you to get here." And again, if you guys don't get here, we're going to die. I remember looking at DB going, "Bro, we need to go." And he looks at me, and I didn't say, this is what he said, because this is how we are. We're funny guys. He goes, "Yeah, we need to get high." And I looked at him, and you guys don't believe me, but I said, it's like, DB, we don't have time for that right now. Just saying, and you guys, I know, police officers, I don't do drugs. Say no to dope, up with hope, you know. But, you know, DB and I were working together, and DB was a sniper. He was a recon Marine sniper. So I knew what he meant. He wanted to get up high on buildings. There were several buildings that were about 4 stories high along the way. So I went to our team, and I said, we waited too long, we got to go on foot. And we started jumping walls. And like I said earlier in lunchtime, that first wall I jumped, and I had my armor on, had my helmet on, my night vision. I had a belt-fed machine gun. I had an M4 strapped to me. You didn't hear that. I had a rifle strapped to me, and jumped that first wall, and I about collapsed. Oh, holy crap. This is, but you know, all the training that you go through from Ranger School and then Marine, you know, BUDS, whether you're a Navy SEAL, Marine boot camp, or recon training, you just get in your head, I've done this before, I can do it again. And I'm still in pretty good shape. But I'll tell you what, towards the end, I was pretty wore out once we got there. But we ended up running up 2 different buildings, and we could not see into the compound because there was just too much smoke. And during that time frame, John, and Jack had actually started to move a different direction. They were suppressing with 40mm grenade launchers down to the fighting positions of Van Sharia. And when those 40mm hit, all you veterans know, and those, they're the same thing as when you guys had the M79s, still the foom, and it, wait for it, 2, 3, and then it hits, and it explodes. Just the sound on the reverberation will usually clear the bad guys out. And terrorists from Afghanistan to Iraq to wherever else, I use this analogy because they remind me of, if you've seen Star Wars, the Sand People. They're easily frightened, but they come back in greater numbers. That's exactly what happened. It was able to push them off, those 40mm grenades. And we ended up getting on the compound. And you know, there's a little bit more that goes into it. We'll let you, people that read the book, I'll let you see it there. We ended up getting on the compound, and like I said, as early as lunch, it's gorgeous. Everything's on fire, and with me, everything is just so much focused when stuff like that's going on. The greens are greens, the blues are blues, and I'm like, wow, this is incredible. I love this. I'm having such a good time. And we get to the middle, we link up, and we start clearing the console. The console is about 8 acres large. It's 2 football field size large. There's 6 of us that are trying to clear it and also find the ambassador in his villa. And we ended up clearing the consulate. And there was this funny story I didn't tell you at lunch. We ended up clearing one building, and Alec Henderson was in it. And he would not let us in his building because the Ansar Sharia had been trying to break into it. And usually I get a little scruffy when I'm over there. And we also had some 17 Feb guys that were February March Brigade that were coming on the compound well. So we're saying, Scott, let us in. We got to get in there. I mean, Alec, let us in. We got to get in. And finally, Tig had to threaten to shoot the door with his machine gun for us to get us, for him to let us in. He finally did. And he just took off running. It was, on my head, I'm going, run, Forrest, run. So I go, Alec, come back. And it's just how I am. It's just one of those funny things. It's hilarious. But I don't blame him. I mean, he'd been barricaded himself in a place he didn't know we were coming. It had been an hour since he first called. And we found him, but we got him back. We ended up getting in there, clearing the buildings, and we got everybody mustered. And now it's about 11:30. And during this time frame, Jack and Ty and Scott Wickland are taking turns trying to find the ambassador in the villa. It's still on fire. There's still diesel fumes everywhere. Once we get everybody rounded up, we get everybody consolidated near the ambassador's villa, we start taking turns trying to get in there. It basically was running in, tagging a hand, going and running around as far as you could, then running back out. Because you couldn't spend time in there more than 2-3 minutes because of the smoke and because of the immense heat. And we almost lost Ty at that time too. We lost him. He got disoriented in the back, and we actually had to play Marco Polo with him and lead him to up to the sound of our voices while we were actually running in and just reaching and reaching and reaching. We just were very lucky to grab his hand. During this time frame while we're searching, we do get counterattacked. There's an explosion, and a large explosion on the backside of the villa at the consulate. And this 17th February Martin Gator comes running by and he's missing his hand. It's just jingling. I know this is great dinner talk, but it just looks like a piece of meat. And I said, what happened? What happened? And one of the 17 Feb guys looks at me and he goes, grenade, grenade. Now, we knew that 17 Feb had a tie with Al-Qaeda. That was known to us. So I thought that he tried to cook off. And a cook on off a grenade is when you hold it, you count to 1 or 2, then you let it go, and it gives less of an opportunity for your enemy to throw it back at you. Or it will explode in the air. So I figured he cooked it off and he blew it off in his hand. He held it too long. So I've seen that happen by the locals before. They used to play grenade catch in Tripoli, and one held it too long. So I said, good for him. He blew off his hand. I don't care. Second explosion comes by. What has happened? They actually 17 Feb had opened a back gate and did counterattack with RPGs. And another RPG comes by, and an explosion. An RPG doesn't whoosh. It explodes because there's an explosive on the back that propels it, and then when it hits, it explodes. So it's blam and then splam. And so we're getting counterattacked because 17 February decided to open a back gate to allow Ansar al-Sharia and Al-Qaeda and Maghreb to counterattack us. And I wish I had more time to go into it. The bottom line is myself, John, and DB And I didn't tell us at lunch, because at the time there was a gentleman that came, and he was wearing that exact shirt. And he just some guy that came out of the blue. He was one of the neighbors. He wasn't sitting in February. He was wearing dress shoes. He was wearing slacks. He had a button-down shirt. And he had a nice shiny AK, and he knelt right down beside me and started firing. And I remember looking at the side and going, holy, and he's 55, 60 years old. And that got me so motivated. Like, holy cow, he'd not be part of this. And he's sitting there, he blew up my eardrum. I'm like, that's okay. And if that just got me more motivated to continue to fight. And finally, that RPG guy the guy shooting RPGs come around the corner too many times. And like I said at lunch, we'll give Tick the credit. Tick says he shot him. I still think I shot him. But we were shooting down there, and he hit the RPG guy, and he went down like a ton of bricks. And I don't think Ansar Sharia realized that they were going to have guys fighting back like we did. And the fighting stopped, and it gave us a big enough lull to get out. So we had that break. We got the State Department guys out. We got Sean Smith's body loaded up, set a prayer over Sean Smith's body. To me, it still bothers me because we left the ambassador there, but we did not know, and we had tried to get in that building as far back as we could. And we never leave a fallen criminal to fall in the hands of the enemy, and it still bothers me because I still feel like it's our fault that we weren't able to get him out of it. But we left, and we had to leave because we were getting attacked, and there was only 6 of us and fighting these company-sized element, which is 60 to 80 guys. Well, when we went out, I remember telling the State Department guys, because there was an Ansar Sharia compound that was 200 meters away from the consulate, that we had told the State Department months prior that they had bad guys living right next to them. I remember looking, and we told Scott, I said, Scott, and Ty said the same thing, when you guys go out, make sure you go left, don't go right. And I remember them driving out, and they went right. I'm like, you damn son of a... And they got attacked. They got ambushed severely. And they are very lucky their armor held up. They came back to our compound on rims. And this was why we were trying to fight off the counterattack. So we couldn't go after them and help them because we were caught in the counterattack ourselves. But we did manage to get out of there, drive home, got to our annex. We went the correct way, and we got home unscathed. Once we got back to the annex, we knew we were going to be attacked, and we already had our defense planned. So we went to our spots, and we waited, and basically we set up an ambush. We set up an ambush for them. Which is what it was, because they decided to come through an area we called Zombieland. And we called it Zombieland because it looked like Zombieland. It was a goat farm in the back, and there was dead weeds and dead brush and dirt everywhere. And they started to move on us, and I saw them coming. I remember, of course, in terroristic style, they came through a house that had kids in it. We knew there were kids in it. They knew there were families in it, because the kids used to come over and throw firecrackers over our walls because they're kids. But that's the house they utilized to stage, because they knew as Americans that we're not going to shoot that house up because there's kids there. There's collateral damage, and we don't want to do that. I'm not going to shoot a kid. I had a little girl blown up on me in Iraq. I'm not going to shoot a kid. They come through, and I remember seeing him, and DB goes, we got movement coming towards us. And I said, do you see a weapon? He said, no, I don't see one. And I start lasering them with my IR laser, my infrared laser, and I'm just pointing. And it's the neatest thing. If you got NVGs on, you can just see the lasers going back and forth. And I go at Oz on the radio, Oz and Tig, I said, do you see what I'm seeing? He goes, yeah, I got your laser, I got the targets. And DB goes, I see an AK. I garage that, we got a weapon. And all of a sudden you hear a huge explosion. It was a gelatina bomb. What a gelatina bomb is what they use for fishing. It's basically dynamite, sticks of dynamite in a bag. And they threw it over. And they about hit Tig. Luckily there wasn't any shrapnel in it, so all they did was lose some herring. But once that happened, it just initiated us, and we just started hitting them. And they didn't realize that we had the night vision goggles, which is what our force multiplier is. It's what gives us an advantage to these guys, to these people. We know how to use them. And we just started picking them off. And I'm from Grand Junction. We have this thing called prairie dog shoot. And that's what it was. It was shooting prairie dogs. And whether you think that's better, honestly, I could care less if you think that's sadist or not. These people are trying to kill us. They already tried to kill our friends over there, and to me, you're nothing but an animal. And that's what it was. And we finished it off. A couple hours later, and there's more in the book you can read about, more comical stuff between some downtime we had. We get attacked again, this time by a bigger force. And remember, we did have an ISR, a Predator, come and assist us at that time. And the Predator was giving me a feed that was about 3 minutes off of what I was already seeing. And the news doesn't tell you this. So the State Department wants you to know that we had a UAV. They didn't want to tell you that the UAV was worthless because I was seeing everything the UAV was telling us 3 minutes before it was even giving us the information. So it's telling me, hey, there's groups massing. I'm like, yeah, I see them. They're in the northeast corner. And there's 3 cars and 5 guys going out. Hey, just give you a heads up. The ISR sees 3 cars and 5 guys coming. And finally I got on the radio. I said, well, you guys can just stop that. I told our leadership, just stop giving me information because that ISR is worthless. It's not helping us. Well, the second attack came, and it's a bigger force, and again, the book gets into more detail, but we fend that attack off too. And this one's about 20 guys, 20 to 30 guys. The only difference with this one, as far as us just beating the crap out of them and killing them, and we ended up killing about 40 people is what the unofficial number is I remember wanting to tear that house up. I remember wanting to grab my machine gun and just destroy that house they were coming out of. And this was after the attack, and DB goes, no, you did the right thing. There was kids in those houses. You held back and you did the right thing, and I'm glad he said that because it's one of those things that as people overseas, as soldiers overseas, we have to show restraint, even though they don't show it on us. They're going to burn people on TV. They're going to behead Christians. We still have to show restraint because we are Christians. We are soldiers, and we do the right thing. We still hold value to life, which they don't. And I've seen it for 10 years. They do not. I've seen women get stoned in soccer stadiums. They do not hold value to life. I was in Canada when he threw acid on little girls' faces. What I'm saying is, it just shows the training that we went through, and also just the brotherhood of me feeling terrible, and DB coming, Tommy, you did the right thing, man. You did the right thing. Get my head back in the game. 4 o'clock, the guys from Tripoli come in, and we had a Tripoli team, which was our GRS guys, which included Glenn Doherty, which went to Embry-Riddle here. And they come in, they're going to assist us with 2 Delta Force operators. Glenn is the only one that came up to the roof to help us fight. And, wrong place, wrong time, right place, right time. He gets up on the roof, 10 minutes later, the mortars hit, and they're fire for effect. They are direct hits. And if you're a mortarman or artilleryman or any veteran, that is dang near impossible unless you already have that target reference point, that target locked on with your mortars. And they nailed it. Ty and Glenn were killed immediately. Dave's leg was severed, and it was hanging on by a tendon. And Oz's arm actually was severed. And this is how tough Oz is. Oz is a tough cowboy. He's sitting there and he's trying to get his gun up. And his arm's falling back down, and he's kind of in shock. He doesn't know what's going on. And he just can't figure out why his arm won't stay up to support his rifle. And I remember Tick getting up there and go, dude, stop that. You can stop it. You're going to make it worse. And Tick sat him down. Tick did a marvelous, immaculate things that night up on that roof. In dark, under mortar fire, and because we've also got attack by RPGs and machine guns on the back gate. He got tourniquets on Dave, he got tourniquets on Mark, and he was able to also start to re-engaging, and he saved those guys' lives. And he did it under fire. Me, DB, and Jack were actually firing back. He was doing all that in the dark, and with possibly more mortars coming. Well, the book goes into a lot more detail of what happened on the roof, and it was pretty traumatic, but Tick did great things. 6 o'clock comes around now, and skipping over a little bit because for time. And the one thing I didn't go into lunch, and this is not told, and actually the parents of the families of Ty and Glenn didn't know this till I explained to them about 3 months ago. Ty and Glenn were big guys, and they were on the roofs. We had to get their bodies down, and we had actually finally got security, and we had secured our compound with the Libyan Shield militia. And why we didn't call them earlier, you have to ask Mike Morell and Petraeus and all them, I don't know. But we were going to try to lower Glenn and Ty's bodies off the roof. Glenn's a big guy, Ty's a big guy. So John had an idea of getting this toe straps, same toe straps you use here, and lowering them down because we couldn't carry them down because we had no stairs. And the ladders we used were just makeshift ladders that we built. And the Delta boys, the Delta Force operators, the 2 guys over there, they go, we'll get them down, we'll get them down. And I haven't been off a roof since it started. And honestly, and even the book I used, it was so bad, I held it for 13 hours. What I would call it 13 hours, I'm kidding. But I did. So, but anyway, the Delta guys go, we got it. And I remember going to use the bathroom, I remember John walking away. And I remember about the height is probably the top of that roof. I remember seeing the Delta guy pick up Ty and roll him off the roof. And I remember him seeing, and I'm kind of in shock. And I see him pick up Bub and Jack and Tick saws and see him roll him off the roof. And right, wrong, or indifferent, when you hear your buddy that's why I want to make sure that I know our country's going kind of in a weird direction, but you still have guys out there that are willing to put it on the line for everybody else, including myself, since I can't do that anymore. But also, you know, one last thing, you know, I know I've got 5 minutes.
No, about 3 now.
All right, I got 3 minutes. You know, with me doing this speaking, and I was kept quiet for a while. I signed new non-disclosures and all that other stuff that they said didn't happen. As far as that, being able to come speak to you folks, I lost a lot of faith in the country when I came back from Benghazi, and when we were crapped on by our own government. By being able to come and this is probably my, I don't know, 50th maybe speaking event. Well, I'm embellishing, maybe 40th. There's still people that actually are true patriots here, and I really appreciate you guys coming and doing this for me, because I lost a ton of faith in what I was doing and wondered if I was even fighting for the right people. And I do know now that I am, and now this platform that y'all give me, and Lisa's been kind enough to invite me and give me, you know, I think maybe this is the path that's supposed to happen now for me, and to help push people to stand up and to fight against what we're seeing right now, which is very scary with ISIS and things coming, and ISIS taking over and us leaving countries. But it also helps me move on to the next objective, which is speaking again. And you know, I know I'm rambling a little bit, but I just want to say, really what I'm trying to say is just thanks for listening to me, and thanks for paying attention, and thanks for supporting me and my team, especially when the government didn't. So I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate all your time. It's wonderful. Thank you again. And, like I said, I do want to say thank you to Lisa again for having me and letting me be part of this. And you know, I hope, are you feeling all right? Give her a hand, please do.
Yay!
I haven't seen some more things because she's not feeling well.
Don't let you hold me up while I do my talk. You can stay right there.
You want me to stay right here?
Ranger 1, Ranger 2 wants you right there.
I just want to make sure, because you know I can keep talking.
You're great.
But I want, please give Lisa a hand, because
Thank you.
she has good things to say.
Can I go up? Can I
You
go up?
come on up.
Okay, well, you know, let me find my ways. I found my way on the beaches in Jordan, I can find my way on
We'll get you a compass. We can get a compass. Come to the sound of my voice.
Okay,
Come on.
here we go.
I got you.
Okay, so, thank you.